call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. A little bit of a roller coaster ride on Tuesday, wasn't it? I mean, Razorback fans kind of like they somehow got the air let out of the balloon and got it reinflated a little bit within the matter of a few hours. It's a little bit wild. Some surprising stuff that came out of the day. Is it going to end in disappointment? I guess we'll find out one way or another here soon enough. But interesting to say the least. Now, I'm running the risk of recording a little bit too early. I usually do this right before I go to bed the night before, and we publish the show every day at 6 a.m. It's about 7 p.m. here on Tuesday because I'm headed to X&A here in just a little bit, and I just hope to not have to work once I pick Michelle up. She's been gone for several days, and she's going to be very pregnant and very tired, and she's probably want to get some rest. I want to take care of her and spend time with her. So fingers crossed for nothing too notable between now and Wednesday morning when you guys are watching this, but just wanted to throw that out there just in case something changed. And honestly, if it's super, super important or a big deal, I will scrap what I'm doing right now and probably record a new one. So anyway, we're going to talk about Boogie Fland. We're going to talk about Adou Thiero. Another way too early bracketology, some Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas notes, just a lot going on today's episode, which is sponsored by HD Roofing and Construction. And I have to imagine that they are busy at the moment. When storms hit unexpectedly or expectedly, I mean, we're kind of waiting on this throughout the course of the weekend. And, we had some bad stuff over the weekend, but, Monday was kind of the day that everybody was looking at going, hey, look out, it could get nasty out there. And it really, really did. And so, man, I hope everybody who listens is safe and unaffected. But if you were and you're worried about your roof, get a little bit of that peace of mind and contact HD. They'll come take care of you with a free inspection, let you know exactly what's going on. And when you work with HD, you know that you're going to get professionalism. You're going to get top-notch customer service. You're going to get the best materials, and you're going to get expert installation. Phone number is 501-428-0429, or you can find them over at hdarkansas.com. Give them a look. Like I said, I know they're busy, but this is what they do, and they'll get you taken care of. But man, scary, scary stuff with those storms. And again, hope everybody out there is safe and doing well. We're also brought to you today by our friends over at Basis Health, who's they've kind of reinvented the way that healthcare is delivered, changing the way that healthcare is delivered, whatever you want to call it, by providing those medical mobile visits at the comfort of your home. You guys know the drill. Making those doctor's appointments, not a lot of fun. Going to the waiting room, all the scheduling, the logistics. Sometimes you get there and you're nervous. I know I'm a big white coat syndrome guy. If I take my blood pressure at home or, at Walgreens or whatever, perfect, man. 120/80 every time. I get in the doctor's office, that thing's inflated. They have to talk me down a little bit, check it again, make sure it goes down. I get nervous in there. Some people are like that. They can come to you in the comfort of your own home, though, for urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and more. Basis Health is here for you when and where you need them the most. Make sure you give them a check, give them a look, see what it's all about, basishealth.org. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. Let's start with the not-so-fun stuff. Boogie Fland to Florida. It's official, done deal, happened Tuesday morning. Hey, Florida is now kind of back up there towards the top of that food chain in the SEC and, a repeat contender. Once again, I think Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee, if they get Condon back to go with Thomas Houck and Ruben Chinyalu and Micah Hanlogden and some of those other pieces, I mean, that's a pretty potent team. And from the sounds of it, they might still be looking to add there. So, Todd Golden's doing his work, doing his due diligence to put together another contender. And Boogie Fland's going to be a big part of that. It's always a great feeling when it's your guy that can help push a conference rival over the top. It's just an irritating outcome. Understand why it happened. We're not doing this is Cal's fault thing. We've talked about it a ton. I'm more upset just to see him in the SEC with the program that you're trying to catch up to than I am him not being at Arkansas, honestly. So, I'll view the offseason as a little bit underwhelming relative to expectations if they do nothing else at this point. It's kind of where we're at. I can do that. I mean, you can be optimistic and like the team and be excited for the potential without, lying to yourself and believing that this result was the plan all along if it winds up that way. But hopefully it doesn't. Still some time to go here, and we'll see how things wrap up. Maybe we get a surprise. We were a little bit surprised with something that was said on Tuesday. We'll get to that in a minute. Told that Florida wound up getting Boogie for what I'm told is south of $2.5 million. And that's about what you had on the table for Nate Ament. A little bit more than what you had allegedly on the table for Keyshawn Hall. So, the money was always going to be there to get Boogie back. But if we're to believe the reporting from, guys like Matt Norlander, who they know their stuff, it was never really on the table once he hit the portal, for Arkansas. It was a timing situation. They thought he was going to the draft. They moved on with their offseason plans, locked DJ back down. You got the Burger Boys in the backcourt. And then once he was going to enter the portal, it became an okay. But if you do that, understand, it's not going to be a thing coming back here. So just that timing thing again. Maybe it would have been a different story if he would have entered earlier, like before the plans were in motion. Had he have maybe entered the portal or said that he wanted to do that at the same time that he entered the draft. Who knows? Doesn't matter because what's done is done. Oh, well, fine. So Arkansas can just allocate those funds elsewhere to strengthen the roster, right? Hypothetically. Now, Cal has said as much, that they can add if they choose to. They have the ability to add if they choose to. Whether they do it or not is an entirely different story, and it's been up for a lot of debate. I hope that they do. I won't burn my own house down if they don't, but I'd be a little disappointed, whatever. Less is more, we're told. Was less more when you were pursuing Nate Ament, though, or Keyshawn Hall? Or did that qualify under that perfect fit, that special player type of category, which is kind of the message that was delivered to us after they picked up Ewan and Pringle and got the retention in order was, if we do this, it's got to be the right fit. It's got to mesh with the guys. It has to make sense with what we're doing. So who falls into that category? Does Darian Williams or Jameer Watkins or the Big East Player of the Year, RJ Lewis, or the Greek pro prospect, Nicholas Abdalis, or Vin Allen Lubin out of North Carolina? It's, it could just become a rinse and repeat conversation until Arkansas is connected to one of those guys, or Cal sends out another tweet saying, hey, we're done. I spoke to the team. This is the team, right? But I am going to be at least curious to see if there's any connection at all with those guys that we just mentioned. I tend to doubt it to a degree at this point. If there wasn't a push to retain Boogie and keep him out of the SEC, but hey, maybe they just cover it, or kind of coveting a different position or a different area of need than what he provides. Although they haven't really seemed to have recruited anything other than the big men this offseason. Wings, I guess, to a degree. You got to be fair there. Maybe it's more about strategic depth. We don't know. Maybe they're just done. And, but the other part of this is maybe, just maybe, they are legitimately waiting it out for every pending decision that's before them. Maybe, just maybe, that this could be a Karter, Knox and a Adou Thiero dependent situation where they wait to see exactly, without a doubt, what those guys are doing before they move forward. No jumping the gun or assuming anything when the plans and priorities change once these guys make their decisions. It does. If a Karter Knox doesn't come back, you have to go get one of these major splash type players out of the portal. If he does come back, then you're not in that position where you have to do that. And then you're deciding if there's, depth pieces or role players or whatever, a need that can be filled out there that makes sense, or if you're just better suited rolling with what you have. But that brings us to Adou Thiero. Very interesting. Adou Thiero, who for all intents and purposes has been assumed gone for well over a month now. He's at the combine chilling. He didn't really participate in any of the stuff there. His knee's still bothering him maybe. But sitting, top 35 in pretty much all those mock drafts. Some places have him mocked at the back end of the first round. There was one moment a couple weeks ago where the hypothetical of him returning started buzzing around, and it kind of got laughed off a little bit when I checked in on it. We'll talk about that in a minute, but oh well, heck, it would be sick to get him back, but I get it. You're locked to get drafted, pretty solid positioning there with your stock coming off a breakout year. Don't want to risk getting injured again. But he would always stand a chance to make more money in college. He's very much in guarantee territory in the draft. But, if he goes in that 30 to 40 range, he would probably make more money coming back to school. But then there was the way that Cal was talking about, his NBA playoff ready body, and really just hyping him up like it was going to be his next draft pick on the roadshow. Like that's kind of how it came across to me, at least. Well, remember yesterday when we were referencing the Ion College Basketball podcast, Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish, they were talking about the Boogie Fland situation and, the policy with transfers and with Cal, if they hit the portal, they're out of there, whatever. Well, finished up the show on Tuesday and was doing some things around the house, and I turned that show back on to finish the episode. Had about 30 minutes left, and they were doing a stay or go segment on all these guys who are in the draft, who go back to school or the portal or whatever. And Norlander, out of nowhere, says, hey, a couple more names for you. Adou, Thiero, and Karter Knox, I think will both wind up back at Arkansas. Hello. Come again? I literally hit, you can go back 15 seconds. I did that and listened to it again just because I did not expect to hear that come out of his mouth. You know what I mean? And sure enough, that's exactly what he said. So just when just when I've had enough, you pull me right back in. It's kind of that situation. Like, really? So interpret this however you want. To me, knowing how meticulous Norlander is with his show prep and the way he goes about wording things, I do not believe that he would just throw that out there with zero info. And if he was just guessing or, just a hunch or whatever, just a gut feel kind of deal, he would probably say that. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. I don't know. But it's not usually his style to just throw things out there willy-nilly. And he has no problem saying he doesn't know in other cases. In fact, he went on to say right after he said he thinks that both of those guys will be back at Arkansas, he went on to say that Knox got better feedback than anticipated. Knox. So he added context with him, but left it as is with Adou. He went through arguments, for guys like Yaxel Lindenborg and Todd Pettiford and Milos Uzion and RJ Lewis. And he even rapped by saying that the one of all the guys he talked about, the one that's most hazy to him is Jameer Watkins. Go figure. It's just very interesting, right? I mean, at a time where we're looking for anything to cling on to, if you're in the camp of, dang, man, I hope they do a little bit more, this is something for you. Doesn't mean it's a lock that Adou's back just because he said it. No, not by any means. But maybe the door is more open than we were led to believe. So again, take it however you want. If this makes you happy, be happy. I would caution you to be weary of the crash of disappointment if it doesn't lead to anything here. It makes me sad when you all are sad. I don't want that to be the case. I personally don't necessarily share the same level of optimism as Matt here, obviously. I feel like the only path is if that knee is keeping him from getting a guarantee where he wants it. But I kind of been told that Clutch at least was pretty comfortable with his draft standing. That was at the combine. So maybe some of the more recent feedback or, medicals came out or who knows. And maybe that's not the case anymore. Maybe he wants a first round guarantee instead of a top 35 or top 40. I don't know the answer to that. Fascinating. I wouldn't hate it. Not one bit. I mean, good grief. You would go from honestly like having some fairly notable holes that hadn't been addressed yet to pretty much being stacked in every category besides shooting. If you're stacked everywhere else, fine. I mean, think about this team with Karter, Knox, and Adou, Thiero. Defense, elite. Athleticism, elite. Retention, elite. Rebounding, elite. Depth at that point, very sufficient, I think. Like, you'd have as good of a top 9 as there is out there. And yeah, I could buy into the Sealy and Rattel being the next men up type of thing instead of the guys that you're really having to rely on early. Lord, please let this wind up being a thing. And I had another round of folks doing the bit asking about if Thiero's agent is NCAA approved or not, and is he even eligible to come back or whatever. Guys, what I can tell you, and I've echoed this on the show before, but it's been a little bit, is that I asked a member of the coaching staff if Adou is, foregone his remaining college eligibility. Could he come back if he wanted to? And what I was told was since NIL and player representation while they're in school and everything like that has gone into effect, that's not even really a thing anymore. In fact, he's been represented by Clutch for 2 years now. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like he signed with an agent the day that he declared for the draft. It wasn't that kind of thing. So that's what I was told, by someone who would know, and that's what I'm going to roll with. The expectation at that time, a couple of weeks ago, was that, yeah, I mean, he could theoretically come back if he wanted to, but he's wants to remain in the draft. It was kind of laughed at in the moment. It's like, yeah, he's not coming back to school, man. But things change. Things can always change. So I'm open to the possibilities there. At the very least, I want something to talk about. I want something to be super excited about outside of Knox. That's absolutely something to be very excited about. But I don't want the offseason to be done. So this excites me. What can I say? But it's a fair question there on the agent stuff. And believe what you want. That's okay. But just relaying again what I've been told about that situation after asking someone who would, without a doubt, know and wouldn't benefit from lying to me about it. Also, if he wasn't eligible to come back to school, why would he be asked about it at the combine by national analysts and draft analysts who would certainly know? And why would he respond to the questions the way that he did, of saying, well, like it's the door's kind of closed for me, but it's not for my circle and my people, and they need to hear some more things. We'll know more in a week or so. Why wouldn't he just say, yo, the door's closed on college? Like, I'm signed with an agent. I have to stay in the draft. I'm all in. You know what I mean? Like, if that were the case, he would have just said that, especially when you're being interviewed at the combine, at the draft, trying to up your positioning in the draft. So I'm pretty confident that's the case there. At any rate, honestly, Adou actually being on the table, it would explain a lot of what's puzzled me all spring. Like not pursuing another 4, like with TB kind of being your only 4 there. The only other option would be playing 2 centers, which gets real clunky, or kind of relying on a guy like Karter who can play the position, but having to do it out of necessity every night. Like, I don't know. Adou being that hybrid switchable defender that gives you so much flexibility and not even identifying a guy like that who could come in and help you. So, hey, best case, you get him, right? Which I'm really trying not to get my hopes on at all, because it's kind of counterintuitive to most all of what I've heard here recently. But boy, it would be a grand slam. Worst case, you don't get him, and you're just kind of right back in the same situation here, which that's a lot better than a lot of places' best case scenarios. So you'll take it. Maybe the fair middle ground here is it just kind of justifies some of the inaction that we've seen the last few weeks. And if he does fully close that door, like they're waiting to get finality on these guys, and if say Adou does close that door fully and stays in the draft, then maybe the staff gets a wild hair and they start pursuing other options, but they just weren't going to do that until they knew for sure what this was going to look like. Cal said he's got his eyes on certain guys depending on what, the draft people do and everything. Maybe so. Maybe so. They're going to be fine either way. It's glass half full, glass half empty. What kind of person are you, right? projected as a 4 seed. We'll talk about that in just a second. That's great. So you could be very happy about that. Glass half full. Glass half empty, you could be like, yeah, but they're a piece away from being a 1. And you have every capability to get there, and all it requires is adding a 9th player to the rotation or whatever. Like you don't want to be greedy, but you were just kind of led to believe that you were in a situation where you could be. Felt nice. So I see it from both sides of the debate here. It's all good. But speaking of that 4 seed, Lenardi did his updated bracketology that means absolutely nothing other than what teams look like on paper or whatever. And Arkansas actually got a little bit of a bump from where they were. So let's pull it up here and see what we think. Still highly regarded. You see him as a 4 seed there. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, if you have Adou, Thiero, and Karter Knox on this roster, I think you are in the conversation for a 1 seed. Like it's that type of team, in my opinion. Pretty complete. But a 4 seed is nothing to sneeze at. You know what I'm saying? And this is a lot, but like the seeding is better for Arkansas than the last one that he put out. I think there were a 5 or a 6, maybe. The location's better, sort of. Like, I mean, you're not going to Portland or wherever the hell it was for the first round. Tampa's cool. I could do Tampa. That could be fun. Like I would prefer St. Louis or Oklahoma City, one of these places that's closer there. I would prefer to be in the region that sends you to Houston or Chicago for the second round as opposed to DC. But hey, it's a better situation because the last one I think was Portland and then Sacramento or something. Like it was just wasn't ideal. What do you feel about how you guys feel about the draw? Arkansas would face High Point in the first round, and that right away that just screams no thanks. That's the type of team that beat Cal at Kentucky. High Point was really, really good this past year. And they pushed Purdue in the first round of the NCAA tournament, but their coach left. He's now the coach in waiting at Creighton, and that entire team left. Most of those guys hit the portal. Maybe they're still going to be good in their league or whatever, but it's not going to be the same group. So whatever, fine. It doesn't matter what mid-major Arkansas could pull in this situation. We'd all be nervous about it. It's just kind of the way it is. But how about an Arkansas versus Illinois second round matchup in the tournament? Like you just get to play basically a FIBA team, an all international team that features both Z's. How would you feel about Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle going up against Z and Z? I would actually like your chances there. So it would be pretty interesting. It would be pretty interesting for sure. And who's on the other side? Purdue. Okay, fine. Well, how about Alabama down as an 8 seed? They better hope they add Desmond Claude to the mix there. Get back up in the conversation. That's quite the drop off for them. Who else is notable? Ole Miss in a play-in game as an 11. That's probably about right, given where they're at. They've done some nice things, but I don't know that they've come close to replacing what they've lost there. Missouri as a 7 seed, they've got quite a bit of retention. Got Sebastian Mack out of the portal. I don't know about 7, but I could see him being a tournament team again. Georgia as a 10, I'm not so sure about. I really got to go look more at what all they've done. I know they've added some pieces, but man, they got Somto back. But when you lose Silas Demery and Asa Newell, that's pretty tough to replace. They got Blue Cane back. They got Somto back. That helps. So maybe. Florida as a 3. Now, this is right before the Boogie announcement, so I imagine they'll probably be a 1 or 2 seed whenever he updates this thing. USC is a 5. No disrespect, Muss. You're my guy, but I mean, what are we doing? What? A 5? Let me think this through real quick. You got Rice, you got Chad Baker-Mazara, and you got Arenas. It's got to be about the backcourt, which is good. But I know they got a bunch of options in the front, but they didn't do a whole lot there. That's wow. Oh, maybe I'm sleeping on them a little bit. Chris Jans in his perpetual 8-9 game that he'll lose. They've got Hubbard and Jaden Epps in that backcourt. That's going to be there's a very high variance there with those two. And then they got Quincy Ballard in the post, which I think is probably a downgrade from the guys that they have had. All right. Well, interesting enough. I love looking at those things. USC is a 5. That kind of threw me off a little bit. Whatever. Anyhow, let's wrap it up. One last thing that I wanted to tell you guys about. The Team USA mini camp roster, U19, was announced. And there's like 33, 34 guys who are trying out, and then the final 12 will make it, and they'll play in the FIBA Cup. Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas were not listed there. They're not participating, which means that they should report to campus here soon when everybody else does. I think that's good news. I really do. Remember a couple years ago, Anthony Black was delayed that summer because of that. Great experience for him, right? Repping Team USA. I think they were playing in Tijuana, and he got to do all that, but he wound up missing like weeks of summer workouts and summer practices. And I even remember Musk talking about it. Like it took him a while to get acclimated and get caught back up and everything like that. Not going to be a problem with Acuff and Thomas. Now, if they were playing for Team USA, we'd be live streaming during it. Like that would be sick. But those guys getting on campus, especially when you're going to have, a good number of returners, you can you're at a better starting point than so many other programs out there around you. I like the idea of having your squad all there at once, especially when these guys are guards. Acuff, you're going to be initiating the offense, so you got to know it, dude. So the quicker you're in there with the coaching staff, in the playbook, picking DJ Wagner's brain, working with him, the better. And same for Lee. And with Leak, I think about the sooner you get here, and same thing, because it's a little bit more of an adjustment, I think, with these overtime elite guys, getting a feel for the system and all that, but also for him, that strength and conditioning, right? If he can get to the weight room and add, 8 to 10 pounds here in the offseason, that would go a long way for him in terms of being ready to make an impact right away out of the gates. So interesting to see. If they would have been on the route, I would have been pulling for them to make the final team. But I ain't upset about it. And it sounds like they'll be here sooner rather than later. So that's good stuff. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed. If you're not following the podcast form, do that for us. We'd certainly appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early as always. Ben Curtis Wilkerson. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you next time.